we are now going to learn how to orchestrate multiple Lambda functions using AWS Step Function. So this pretty much means that we are going to learn how to chain several Lambda functions into a very resilient workflow, right? With retries, error handling, and a couple of things. This pattern is often used in order processing, data pipelines, approval flows, and a whole range of stuff as you work with serverless function or as you become a serverless engineer. So in this simple bit, all that we are going to show is that scenario is that we currently have a database, right? And in the database, a very simple DynamoDB table. And then inside the database, we have a couple of task IDs, right? With a status set to done. So all that we are saying is that we just want to create a workflow where we're able to invoke and then push the tasks into completion by chaining a series of Lambda functions. And then we are going to do this orchestration using a step function. So now let's get right into it. So the first thing we are going to look for is a step function. So we are going to create our first step function. So I'll open step function. Then I'll click on get started. Or if you don't have the get started option, you can click on state machines and then you click on create your state machine. So what I'm going to do is to give my step function a name. I'm going to call mine task completion pipeline. And for this, I'm going to use the standard. Click on continue. And then what I'm going to do is that there are multiple ways you can create it. It's either we create it by doing a drag and drop and then constructing our own orchestration flow, or we can use something we reference as ASL, right? That is the Amazon States language. It's pretty much a JSON structure that you can use to create your own orchestration. That's very simple to do, so I'm going to do that. So I have a very simple ASL here, which will be readily available in the repo. You guys will have access to it. So once you click on it, so this is pretty much what is happening. Now, once my orchestration starts, I first want to validate if the task exists by calling the particular Lambda function. And then if it exists, I want to do complete, that is update my database using this step function action, and then I'll set it to complete. Then if need be, I will notify users by another Lambda function. This is going to be a very simple demo, so I'm not going to do a lot of technical stuff or technical bits in this. Just we are going to create a Lambda. So the first thing is that I'm going to search for Lambda, and then we are going to create our 3 Lambda functions. There are inbuilt stuff that you can use, right? There are lots of them, adding stuff into the DB table, S3 and all that you can drag and drop depending on what you want to use. But for now, I just want us to see how we can integrate Lambda, which is very simple. And then it works cut across for all other services or the actions that you have in here. So now my first Lambda, I will do validate task, right? That was the first Lambda I want to create. So I'll paste it. My runtime is going to be Python. And what this Lambda is going to do is that you are going to use this Lambda to validate if our task ID is in the database. So I have to ensure it has the appropriate permission, right? So I'll come to create custom execution. I'll create my own role. And then the permission, I'll look for DynamoDB. So in this case, the action I want to do is to try and then get item from the DB. For resource, I'm going to do all resource. I don't want to specify a specific table. This should be fine. Then I'll click on create role. So this is my first Lambda function, save. Then I'll create it. So I have the Lambda code in here. This is a very simple Lambda code. All it's doing is that it's going to get a task ID as part of the event. If the task ID exists, then it proceeds to do a get item from the DB table, and then we then continue our journey as per our state machine orchestration. So I'll get this one, deploy it, have my function ARN, come back to my state machine, my code. Let me click on the first one so that I can easily see where it is. Then I'm going to update my resource ARN. You see currently it's in red because this resource doesn't exist. So I have it in there. Now I'm going to create my second one, which is going to be my complete task Lambda. So the same way. For this, the permission is going to be update because I said per this orchestration flow, we just want it to, we want the Lambda to update the value in there from false to true or something for the completion. So I want to do update item. And then with the resource, I'm just going to do all resources. I don't want to select my specific table. Then I'll create my row, save. Then I'll create my function. This is also a very simple code. This is also a very simple code. So what that is doing is that it gets the tax ID as part of the events and then goes to the tax table, then calls the update item operation and it updates it. So I'll deploy it. Let's make sure I deploy this one. Now the final Lambda function. Before that, let me just copy my function ARN, come to my state machine, which is the second one, this one, the complete task. Then my final, which is my notification. So in raw word, what you can do is that you will probably integrate this with SNS, SES to send emails and do all that. If you want to see how to use some of those features, I have a lot of quality tutorials where I use those services to build other stuff. So I'm not going to do that in here, but the logic and the rationale is pretty much the same. I'm just going to create a function. This function is just going to be a dummy function with nothing fancy in there, just an acknowledgement stuff, the same Python runtime. This Lambda function is not doing anything, so I'm just going to create it directly. We are not invoking any service in here, so all I'm doing is that just call simulate a successful task sent and then there's a notification sent. So that's what that is doing, nothing fancy. Let me deploy, get my ARN, come to my state machine, then I'll connect this. So now I've connected all my Lambda functions successfully. Let me create my workflow, and then step function in itself is going to create the necessary permissions needed to invoke all the Lambda functions and the appropriate resources. So this is my state machine and everything seems fine and good. So what I'm first going to do is to test it. So to test it is very simple. I'll just come to execute, and then in here I'm going to pass an event, right? So I'm just going to paste an actual task ID. So let me come to my database again. So this is a very simple database with this table item. So you can just simulate this and create a database like this. Nothing fancy. Now on my state machine, I'm going to replace this with my actual task ID. Then I'll start the execution. So you see, the execution is happening. Currently, it's invoking this Lambda. And then it failed. So what happened? So it's timed out. So the first Lambda function timed out. So let's look at it. Now, come to my configuration for my first Lambda. So the get item operation took some time. Let me set it to about a minute. This should be more than enough. And then for the update, also for the first invocation, I don't want any timeout issues. I think 30 seconds should be fine, but let me just set it to a minute. The last one, 3 seconds should be fine. Now I'm going to try the execution again. So I'll click on start new execution. The same execution stuff. I'll start it. As you can see, it went through all the Lambda function and then the execution was a success, right? So this is how you orchestrate several Lambda functions, and then this is how you use step functions. If you want detail logs, you see whatever happened in here. Because our final Lambda is not doing anything fancy, when you go to monitor, although we will see that it was invoked, but we are not using SES or SNS or any service for notification. That's why you didn't see anything. So this is pretty much it. So you can try and then test wrong IDs that are not part of your DB table. And then you see everything working end to end. So now this is how we simply set an orchestration using Lambda functions and step function. This is a very good hands-on stuff. Modify your Lambda functions, make it detailed, and then if you have questions, kindly drop them in the comment section and I'll do my best to respond.